Hi, this is Doma. Welcome back to my channel of Books and Soul. So this week I'm here with a book that's actually my first time reading this author, and it's a book by Stephen King, The Green Mile. And I'm really happy that I chose this book to begin my exploration of Stephen King's books. It's written in this interesting way because, it's told from the perspective of the main character, Paul Edgecombe, who is basically the boss at a prison, Cold Mountain Prison, more specifically at E Block. There are various blocks where various prisoners are held, but he's in charge of E Block, and E Block is where basically the criminals that were sentenced to death go. They spend their last weeks, months, sometimes at the E Block, and when their time comes, they have to walk the Green Mile. So they walk the Green Mile and then they meet their death by electric chair. So basically, Paul works as a boss at E Block, which is responsible for performing the death penalty on its prisoners. So like I was saying, the book is told from Paul's perspective, but it's not told exactly in chronological order. I mean, he doesn't confuse you. It's not like it's completely out of order. But we have old Paul who is now at a nursing home, writing his story of precisely year 1932 at Cold Mountain Prison, when an extraordinary, a different prisoner came to E Block, John Coffey. John Coffey, who is a huge, muscular, just enormous, I think almost like 7 feet tall, black prisoner who is convicted of horrible crimes. But as the story unfolds, we discover certain things about John Coffey, about the other prisoners on E Block, and really it's just a masterpiece. I think it's important to realize that the setting is 1932 because that means we're at the moment of the Great Depression. So these men who work at E Block, they are holding on to their jobs real tight because you just don't know if you will find another job if you leave that place, and so any job is precious. The other important thing is we're in the South, and racism is very present in this book, and you see it especially in the case of John Coffey and his story. And we're in the time period when the electric chair is being used for the death penalty, and people can actually come and witness these executions. They have an audience. So this book is very good, but some of its parts can be a little bit more disturbing and a little bit more heavy, maybe. Stephen King describes some of the executions that take place, some of the electrocutions that take place, and those descriptions can be very powerful, and he means for them to be this way. So this brings me to the main themes of this book, or things that I found the most important in this book. The first one is, of course, the death penalty. So we have Paul, who works in this place where he knows that basically the prisoners that he has will eventually die. He says that it's very rare that someone will call in to save them or to say, there's been a mistake or something. So these men that he's given to take care of are basically they're horrible criminals. And he knows that these are their last moments, and then they're gonna die. So working in this place, in this environment, we got a lot of Paul talking about what he thinks about his job, some of the experiences or some of the things. We have some of the conversations he has with the prisoners. We get to know the prisoners. We get to see the human sides of the prisoners, and I think the way this book is written really allows for people to look what is there behind the concept of death penalty. What it's meant to do, what's the point of it, and following Paul, you get to also follow his thoughts and his reflections on, like, does this even make sense? Stephen King is not scared of showing the cruelty of the death penalty. The electrocution, which is supposed to be painless. I mean, he shows the contrary without giving you any spoilers, he does show instances where it is not so. So he looks at the cruelty of it, the fact that there's an audience that watches these executions take place. He lets us look at the prisoners and their final and their emotions, their state of their mind as they are waiting basically for death. And he's also not afraid to show the injustices in this law system, because he makes the reader wonder if all of the prisoners are there because they deserve to be there. Then on top of that, he brings in racism and the role your skin color plays in the fact if you will be most likely put in E-block or not. So he definitely complicates the question. He definitely shows the complexity of what is behind death penalty, which, as a side note, in the US is still legal, done by lethal, like injections, etc., but it's still legal. The other theme that is really big in this book, aside from this moral dilemma of the death penalty, is that of simply death. So Stephen King uses this image of the Green Mile, this metaphor, symbol of the Green Mile, which is basically what the prisoners have to walk before they are killed. He uses this image to describe basically everybody's life. So he's saying all of us have to walk some sort of green mile that will eventually lead us to death. So in this book, the theme of death is everywhere. And the fact that death is inevitable, that everyone will face it, that it's not just criminals who will die, who have to face death, that it's everyone. And sometimes, innocent people die in a way that's worse than the criminals, that there's no fair or not fair in dying. Everyone will eventually die, and that there is no escaping this fact. When you read this book, there are many characters that you really get attached to and you really love. And Stephen King does this really cool thing where he just to reinforce this fact of the Green Mile and death that he's examining clearly in this book, he tells you, and in this many years, this person dies because of this and that, and everybody has to face it at one point or another, and it can be unexpected, it can be expected, it doesn't matter, everybody will die. As this depressing as this sounds, that's what he's talking about in this book. That's not it, because yes, he examines death and the fact that it's inevitable, but that doesn't mean that's it, that life is just us waiting for death that will eventually come. There is this wonderful theme in this book, and I actually there are these two wonderful things that he does in this book that I want to say, because it sounds like maybe this book is very pessimistic, but it isn't. It's really beautiful in what it does. And one of these things is compassion. So we are in E-block, the worst possible place to be, because you're basically with prisoners who are waiting to die. And we have Paul, who has this ability to really look past the crimes these inmates have committed, and he's able to talk with them. He's able to joke with them. He's able to really offer his time for them, and he cares about them. He knows that he's in charge of them. He has to take care of them, and he has to make these last weeks or months for them bearable at the minimum. He doesn't want them to become violent. He doesn't want them to become to go mad. So he really tries to find the humanity in all of these inmates, and that's really nicely contrasted with some of the characters that are just with characters that are just cruel, and they just want to show their power over others and manipulate them, control them. And Stephen King also does this really beautiful thing where he writes about these little miracles. So there are these little wonders, little miracles that happen in this book, and a lot of them happen precisely in E-block. So you are in this horrible place, this hellhole, and even there are these little rays of light and of hope, that happen, and that just inspire the characters and just make them wonder. And it's just so good on so many levels. because yes, it deals with this very serious topic and theme of death and dying, and yes, existence. So you age and then you die, or maybe you don't get to age and you die. You know, yes, it's all very serious and stuff, but then it's intertwined with these wonderful messages of compassion, love. What do you do with that life you have? And I think that's something we should take out of this book, that this green mile that we all have to walk can really be meaningful and can just be so eventful if we open our eyes to miracles, if we open our eyes also to others, and we are able to see past their faults, past what's bad in other people, and the humanity and the dignity they have. So yes, this book is just wonderful, and I really hope other Stephen King books will be just as good as this. I mean, this one has really raised my expectations for Stephen King books, so we'll see. So that's it for today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, please like my channel, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Bye!